Okay, right, time for another video. Tonight I'm gonna do a beef and mushroom lasagna because I haven't had lasagna in a while, and well, I do want to do fancy it. So remember the onion from yesterday? Well, wrapped in my tin foil here, kept all nice and fresh. I'm gonna unwrap it. There we are, look, you see, look at that, still beautiful and fresh. So, the tin foil keeps it fresh overnight, which is exactly what we want. Or what we wanted to happen anyway. Give it a nice rinse, and I've done some dishwashing because it doesn't always get everything. Dishwashers aren't so great, really not. Right, I'm going to chop. Finally chop up an onion. We're doing it, obviously this is with beef, we're doing it with mincemeat. So store-bought mincemeat this time for tonight's dinner. I usually don't, I usually mince my own, but well, hey, it was cheap enough, reduced. But I do think that, you know, mincing your own actually is a lot nicer. Well, you kind of know that it's 100% beef, you know. But yeah. So, I'm gonna generally finely chop these onions because we are dealing with a mincemeat. I want the onionness to blend into the dish. I don't want to remain chunky. But I'm not going to go crazy to the point that they're like liquidized or something. Get them as roughly chopped as possible. There's a long one there, but about like that. Get that into the pan there. Yes. I'm shaking. I'm going to put some heat underneath it. I know there's no oil in it. Oh, wrong one. I know there's no oil in it. Not a biggie. Don't go frantically crazy. Obviously cold pan, cold onions, bring it up to heat. I'm going to drop some beef dripping in again, I think. You know, beef dripping just tastes better than using oils, vegetable oils and things like that. There you go. We're just going to let that start to come up in temperature and allow the moisture to come off those. I've got my lasagna sheets. I'm using dry lasagna sheets. Lasagna sheets. Mushrooms, fresh chestnut mushrooms. My minced beef. I'm not using all of this pack. I'm only going to use half of it. I have a beef stock cube. Yes. Yeah, I need to put my puff pastry in the fridge actually. I was thinking about doing beef and onion pie, but I'm going to have that probably tomorrow night. But because I've got the basil and oregano passata that was left over in the jar. I only used half the jar in last night's dinner. I've got to use that tonight or tomorrow. Didn't matter which way around I did it, but I had to use it. So, because it's opened. So I thought, well, bugger it, I'll use it for tonight's dish. Why not? Yes. Whoa. Yes, the aroma of the onions is coming up. We'll turn on the extract fan. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of chili, I think, to this dish. Just mild chilies. Just one. That's a little small one. There's a small red one there. I think what we'll do is we'll use a big green one like that. Go that way around. That seems like a better approach. You don't want this dish hot. It's not supposed to be hot. You know, it's supposed to be sweet and delicious, which is why I've got passata. I've also got two lovely, juicy, very sweet steamed tomatoes and a single vine tomato. And so you don't have to go crazy with your tomatoes either. So I'm going to chop. I leave the seeds. I have the seeds, and you know, I don't bother taking the seeds out. Some people, you know, do. They say that the heat of the chili is actually in the seeds. So if you take the seeds out, it's not as hot. Well, that's what they say. I tend to believe them. I have tried it without seeds. It is actually quite milder. You've got more of the flavour of the chili rather than the heat of the chili. You leave the seeds out. You have the seeds in there. You've got the heat as well as the flavours, obviously, of the chili. And sometimes on some chilies, the heat can just numb the palate completely to the point that you can't taste it. And that's no good. I mean, if you're a person who likes vindaloo, fine. You know, you're a vindalooer. I think you're crazy if you are a person who likes super hot vindaloos. But everybody's different. You know, nobody's going to be the same as me, so to speak. You know, so I've got all my chilies done there. I'm going to do some garlic as well, and I'm going to put the garlic and the chilies in together because they cook pretty damn quick. And we just want that sort of crunchiness from the garlic and that flavour from the chili. And this is the bit everybody hates. Peel the damn garlic. Get rid of the tops. I always chop the bottoms off because I say you find it very difficult to peel garlic. The top and the bottom is still attached. So I crush them and chop the top off, the little tips, and chop the little portion where the roots were sticking out. And the skin comes off really easy. Just peel it off, turn it upside down, then bring your knife to the bottom, chop the bottom, and effectively the garlic pops out, leaving the skin behind. It's really easy. Yeah. Right. I'm going to finally chop the garlic too, and then I'm going to bring the garlic and the chilies together on the same chopping board. Obviously rocking knife motion. It's the beauty of a chef's knife where you've got the curve, you see. You can up and down the knife nicely in a rocking motion. I brought my garlic together and bring my chilies in with the garlic, go through it with a chop, amalgamate them flavours into the two veggies. I'm not adding any salt here. I don't want to pull out the water. I want all that water and everything to be in on the onions when they're ready to go. So just give my hands a rinse. No, you might have to touch your face and then you'll be like burning forever. Yes. Well, no, you don't want that. Right, so my water has mostly steamed off the onions. It's starting to brown now, so that's coming reasonably good timing. I brought the bottom one's the top one's the bottom, so to speak. Right, so I'm going to get the knife. Open this minced beef up. I'm going to chop it in half. Down the middle, as close to the middle as possible. Not that you're going to be able to get it exact, but you know, that's about right. I'm going to use half in there and the other half I'm going to be putting into a food bag and put it back into the fridge. There's a pairs of paper that they always put at the bottom to absorb the blood. I'm going to leave the paper on the bit that I'm putting back into the fridge. Like so. I've got the beef that I'm going to use tonight right there. Ready to go. Okay. They're now browned nicely, so I'm going to get in my finely chopped chilies and garlic, and within about 5 to 10 seconds you will smell the garlic off the dish, and that's the point to go in with your beef. Yep, there's the chilies. And that's the garlic, the aromas are coming off. Now it's time for the beef. Stick the beef in. Just flatten it out. Don't try and break it up. There's a lot of people try to do that. Break the mince up into little pieces. No, just flatten it out. Give it a stir around so that all the onions and garlic and chilies sort of mix in with that meat while it's cooking. That's how I do it, and then effectively just sort of let it break itself up. Let it become its own dish, guide its way through the flavours, you know. Now, so that's doing that. Now I'm going to, obviously, I'm used to cooking in stainless steel pans for the most of my years. However, I did move to these non-stick Tefal pans. Ta-da, you know. They are easy to clean, they're a good wash. They're basically, when it comes to washing the pots and sticking them in the dishwasher, that's generally where their benefit is, to be perfectly honest. They're not particularly super great in doing anything other than that, really. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide on what to deglaze the pan. Okay. And that is going to be wine that was actually on offer on discount down to a £5 over at Sainsbury's, which is the Moguigan Reserve Shiraz, which is a North-South, what's that, NSW Australia Don't quite know what the NSW is referring to. North, south, west? Really? No, doesn't make any sense. North, south, west. What kind of direction is that? Right, I'm going to open that up and we're just going to let that breathe. We're going to let the sulfates evaporate. While it's doing that, I'm going to coarsely chop up my tomatoes. Yes, I know, it's on the same chopping board. There's no meat that's been on here, it's just the vegetables, the onion and whatever, so all the juices that were on the chopping board from the garlic and the onion effectively are going to be washed up back into the dinner from the tomatoes and the, as in the water, if you want to put it that way, from the tomatoes. So, oh, it's a matter of juices there. Oh yeah. Oh yes. So there we go. Just roughly chop those up. We don't want them finely chopped. Butchered. Just coarsely chopped up like that. They will soften and dissolve into the dish. And we just don't want them huge, that's all. Right. Let's give this a good stir now. You can see it's actually naturally, the mince is naturally breaking itself apart. There's literally not that much you need to do to it. You need to give it a bit of helping hand sometimes. It does clump together a little bit, but that's about it. No need to whatever. If it's a good mince, when you come to eat it, you won't end up with these kind of really roughy bitey bits if it's a good mince. However, I haven't had a Sainsbury's minced meat product, or minced beef from Sainsbury's for quite a while. I got a funny feeling it's probably going to be crap, and I just better off doing it myself. However, this was an offer, so it was cheap, and we're going to try it and actually see if it's an alright dish. You know, alright beef type thing. My wine is aerated plenty, so I'm going to serve myself a glass and try it. Just because that's what we do when we cook dinner. Cheers. It smells full of body. A little bubbly around the edges, it's just the way that I poured it. Good rich colour to the edge. Right. Oh my days. That is really sweet. Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's good sweetness in that. Very plum, kind of a plum sweetness to it. Still, as Christine would say, vinegar. No, every single wine ever made is vinegar to her. Yeah. As it is to many other people, they don't like wines. Consider them all to be vinegars. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, some of them actually are bloody vinegars. Some of them, you know, well, sketchy, questionable ones, you know. And there are some very questionable ones. I've got my tomatoes ready. I'm going to roughly chop up some mushrooms. Because on this dish, I'm going to put the mushrooms in now before I pour in the wine, so that they can. The mushrooms tend to retain a different texture when you do that. I'm not chopping the mushrooms up fine, just into slices. However you like, really. I mean, some people like them differently. Like that. Oh. Mushroom disappeared. Don't matter, I'll have to use another mushroom. That mushroom didn't want to go into the dish, it just wanted to be eaten straight away. And there's another thing is a lot of people don't actually cook their meats long enough in the frying stage. You've got to give that meat time to sear off, you know. I'll put the rest of these mushrooms back in the fridge before they all disappear. Now again, I'm not using any herbs, spices, seasonings because obviously the passata has the basil and oregano in it already. So that's why I've not added any additional dried herbs or spices. I want to keep the dish really rich, tomatoey, sweet. Because obviously there's a lasagna sheets and then the cheese sauce that goes over the top, which I'm going to be making in this second pan here, via the traditional method. So yes, it's all good stuff. Right, so that's in there, that's going to be ready in a moment, so I'm going to drop in the mushrooms, build the structure and layer to the dish. Let's get these mushrooms sweated off in with that beef. Water will start to come out of the mushrooms in a minute, which is exactly what we want. But you could speed the process up. It's quite easy. You just use a bit of, when it comes out of the box, there we are, a little bit of sea salt, coarse sea salt I use. Give it a stir, and what happens is the salt starts to dehydrate the mushrooms and pulls the water out faster, quicker. And then I'm going to effectively deglaze the pan with the red wine. Sort of glazes and caramelizes the mushrooms over, you see. So they retain like a crunch, they retain a bite through the cooking process. Particularly with a dish like this, because it is going to go into the oven, obviously, because it's lasagna. So you can see the steam's coming off there, water's coming off. It's good. The mushrooms do look around about right, actually. Got them sweated off. It's just where you start to see the water come out, you start to sweat off. You sort of change colour, you know. That's generally when it's the right time. So now I'm going in with the red wine. Half open bottle. 2 rotations. Give it a stir. Let the alcohol boil off, the water boil out. Thicken. Yes. Then we got the passata. Let's just change places, shall we? There. Put in our tomatoes. That's it. sauce has thickened up already. Wine doesn't take long for the wine to, sort of go like a syrup, lose its water and alcohol, evaporates off pretty quick. Unless you put too much wine in, of course. Well, that's another matter. We're not doing that. So now we're softening the tomatoes up, and after the wine, I don't know where you can see, but the mushrooms are retaining their entire body and texture. It's weird how when you fry it off with the wine, they do that. It changes the texture of the mushrooms in the dish. Pretty strange. However, it is the physics of cooking. Or science of cooking. Let's call it the science of cooking. Now the water is starting to come out of those tomatoes as they soften, and then that is starting to cook in with everything else. We just want those waters to evaporate from the tomatoes so it leaves the sugars behind, those natural fragrant sugars. And we can go in with the sarta and the beef stock and some tomato puree to richen it up even more. We are wanting flavour layered on top of each other, so that you don't just get a mouthful of one flavour. It blends, and you can taste those flavours throughout the dish, throughout it dances around the palate, which is why we do these things in particular stages. So yes, my water is just about evaporated. It's about another few seconds. That's not too bad a wine, actually. I've never been keen on Australian wines. I don't think Australians know how to make wines to improve themselves. Hey ho. No, not too much of a bad one, to be honest. Yes. See, the waters are coming out of that. Probably a few more seconds more, just to evaporate that water there. And then we throw in and bring in the richness to the dish, because we want that full-on tomatoey kind of Italian richness, which obviously Italian dishes are very good. And this is a lasagna, so I don't know whether you can actually hear it, but as I said, it's starting to sound more like frying than boiling, and that's usually a very good sign when you're ready. So I'm going to give this a start with a good shake. Yeah, let's not forget the beef stock pot. Give it a real richness. It'll dissolve itself in there. Yes, look at that, looking good already. Oh yeah, so you could eat it just about now. However, we want to make it better. So, and I don't necessarily have too much faith in the store-bought minced beef. I really don't. Aldi's one it's just horrible. I mean, seriously, I don't know where they get their minced beef from at Aldi's or whatever it is. It's just horrible. And don't even get me started on Tesco's. Jesus, that's like cardboard. Yeah, I just don't know what they do to it. You know, I mean, seriously, I I find it hard to believe that there's anything more than 5% of beef in it. That actually came from a cow. You know, I'm guessing it's a mechanically recovered product. You know, and then constituted together somehow. You know, I'm guessing because it really don't taste good. You know, I mean, obviously, what I do is I usually buy like a piece of beef, whatever it may be. If I can try and get rib, you know, any sort of rib section, not particularly ribeye because it's a bit of a waste to mince ribeye, but if you can get the other portions around the rib of the beef, I then obviously stick it through my mincer, which is over there. You can't see it. There it is, right in the corner. And then I mince up my own beef, and I pack them into like 200-gram food bags and stick them in the freezer, and then take them out when I need them. It makes a far better dish. The beef tastes a lot better because it is beef. It hasn't got anything in it because you minced it yourself. It's all, you know, natural. It's all real stuff, basically. You know, I mean, I know when you go to a proper butcher's, the butchers will, you know, he'll mince you anything. You know, pick any bit of beef off the counter inside, and he'll put it through the mincer and he'll mince it up for you. Which I think is brilliant. You know, but you're not going to get that in a supermarket. That's the biggest downfall of supermarkets. They're a pain in the arse for that. You know, well, I don't like supermarket meat particularly. Right, I'm going to get about 10 to 15 grams of butter off here. Good quality butter. Good quality butter. Going into that pan. I'm going to get my milk ready, and I'm going to grab my bag of flour. Yeah, I'm using the Carr's flour sauce here. Look, now this stuff, say Tesco's used to sell it. However, they seem to have stopped selling it. I'm guessing. I don't quite know what people are using to make a roux, particularly, or if they even bother making a roux nowadays. You just buy bloody what's it in a tin, I guess. I'm going to put some heat underneath it, but I don't want it too hot. You know, I said I have no idea what on earth they use to make a roux, but you know, sauce flour, it's finer. It's the same as flour, it's just ground a lot finer. It's gone through a refining process, sieved through a sieve, you know, several times. You know, so you get a really, really nice, fine, evenly fine, and that's the key, flour, you know, that makes really creamy, delicious sauces. However, corn flour, a lot of people try to want to use that. Corn flour, I find, doesn't work as well. You know, doesn't form a roux as good as it should do. There's a rhyme to that. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't like using corn flour. It doesn't seem to work. For me, it doesn't seem to work anyway. But you know, everybody has different methods of the way they work. So, oh, I take a sip of the important stuff. Well, now then, the key to this is to get the butter not hot, not like you're frying something. You want to get it so it starts to bubble, like frothy. They call it get the butter dancing. It sort of froths up and loads of little micro bubbles, like you whisked it up or something. And you want to go to that stage, and that's the point you go in with flour. You've got to cook the flour off. A lot of people don't cook flour long enough. Okay, everybody thinks, oh, yeah, we cook the flour too long or whatever. You know, it's like no. You've got to cook the flour off. You literally have got to cook that flour off. The moment we've got little micro bubbles in there, I'm not on a high heat, I'm on a fairly reasonable low to medium heat here. You know, my butter's molten. Should start to in a little minute. Give it time. These things are never always instantaneous. Not when cooking on gas, anyway. There we are. Look, you see. I'll show you. See, look, see how we got these little bubbles. See them bubbles frothing up. Yeah, that's the perfect point. Now I have to work quickly here, so I'm going to have to put you back down here. The camera's going to really sit. There we are. Right, and this is the point you go in with flour and you create your roux. Once you got them little bubbles, a little bit of flour at a time. That's what you want. Mix it round, and you want to try and get like a biscuit. Like how you're making the biscuit base of a cheesecake. You know, and this is why I say you got to go a little bit at a time. You go too far in there or whatever, you end up with too much. Say my paper packet is wearing out. You can tell I made a few roux with this, because you don't need that much flour. It's not that much. You don't need a huge amount of flour to get this done. You know, but just keep adding slowly, mix and mix and mix, and you'll see it start to get thicker and thicker and thicker until it gets, and you'll see in a minute, I'll show you when it gets to the biscuit consistency. Obviously my bag is split like buggery. I'm getting flour everywhere. Maybe I need to go to Home Bargains, get like a plastic container or whatever and get it in. So we're starting to thicken up. Starting to look a bit like a very watery cement right now. So keep going a little bit more. Don't overdo it. If you overdo it, it'll take too much milk. You'll make too much cheese sauce. You'll require 3 times as much bleeding cheese to get it cheesy. And yeah, the more flour you got in it, obviously the more fluids it's required, more fluids and flavourings it's required to get it right. You just want it, see, starting to go there, but it's still a little liquidy. We're getting it there. This is all technique, patience and love. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you do this a lot, you'll be much better at it and probably know exactly the right amount to put into the exact amount of butter and get it right real quick first time. However, I don't make roux and cook with a roux every single night. So just keep going slow. Start this as soon as it starts to dry up like that, you know you're getting close. It starts to clump together like you've not put enough water in a cement, you know. But each one of these steps that you're doing, can't rush, because remember what you're doing is you're actually cooking the flour. Each time you drop a bit in and each time you're stirring it to create that roux, you're cooking that flour off, you know. And that's how you get the most full of flavour. And I'm literally about there at the moment, because you can see it's retaining the dingy bobs in it now. And this might be the right one to the last thing, because now it's turning like a cement with too little water in it, which is the way we want it. So I'm going to put that down because I think we've hit it. In fact, some people do take it a little bit further than this sometimes, make it really more like a biscuit crumb cheesecake base. But I think probably just a touch more flour on mine. There we do. That's more than enough. There we are, look. That's perfect, yeah, that's coming out perfect. Just cut that last piece of flour off, and then we can go in with the milk. Cold milk, hot roux, no lumps. It's different when you're using arrowroot, but yeah. So you see how we've got a dry roux here, look. Okay. See that? It's a dry, pasty roux. That's what we're looking for. If you take it any further than that-ish, or you could if you wanted to. If you were cooking for like several people, you could take it a little bit further and literally you'd make a really, really good, really thick, rich sauce. But I'm just cooking for myself, so I don't need it much more than that. Right, go in, quick dash, cold milk. Mix, mix, mix. Already, after that first dash of milk, look at that, it instantly thickens. Look at that, woof. It's just taken that the flour's just cooked in and just sucked up that milk, look. You know, turned it into a paste. Bit more milk, bit at a time. And yeah, it's now you're like sludging some gelatin around the milk. However, it will dissolve. It will incorporate. And it will turn thick again. So look at that. Look at that. Yes, I know it looks lumpy. Don't worry about it. Them lumps will disappear. They will disappear. This is how you do a roux. And turn it into a sauce. And you can do all sorts with this sauce after that. I mean, you could use stock. You could use, fish stock instead of milk, and then add lemon juice. Turn this into a creamy white lemon sauce, to be honest with you, which is brilliant for fish dishes, which I do quite a lot, or I used to do quite a lot. But yeah, so we just keep adding milk. You see that's becoming really creamy. Now you obviously just keep adding milk, keep stirring and incorporating it until you get the thickness that you want. Then we'll take it off the heat. And you notice I'm not boiling it either. Okay? There's no boiling going on here. Okay? This is all in real time. Look at that. You see how the last time all those lumps disappeared? All those lumps here will disappear again on this one. They'll incorporate, they will disappear, they'll break down. Just gotta keep mixing it. And you can go as thick as you want. If you want it more runny, you can go a bit more runnier. This is why you add the milk slowly, because you want to take it to the stage that you want to have it in. Don't forget to stir your beef sauce as well at the same time. That's why it's good to have the hands side by side while you're doing this. So we've got that lovely creaminess building up now, look. See that? Creamy, lovely texture of a sauce. I think probably just about another half a cup of milk. And then literally that final cook-off. And that will get us to the stage before we put a cheese in. about that. That's it. So I'll stick my milk back in the fridge because I think that is it. That is done, baby. We got some grated cheese. I got a new pack of grated cheese here. Now, let's get this. Notice I'm not simmering this. I don't want this to cook like, you know, like bubbles. Don't want to do that. No. Sauce. Cheese sauce. It's not what you want. But yeah, you see how nice and smooth that got. What we want to do. So we've added that milk in there. We're getting it back again. It's incorporating itself. And it'll come nice and smooth again. Remember also, because this is a lasagna, we've got the cheese to put in. This will cook on top on the lasagna and just make a delicious sauce. So as you can see, keep stirring it, keep stirring it, keep stirring it. If you've got a non-stick pan when you're doing this, obviously, yeah, you're kind of going to have to really keep stirring it. It does have a tendency of sticking if you stir it in just one spot alone, not stir it across the whole board. So yeah, so now we've got this kind of consistency, this milky, thick, creamy consistency. Okay, now when this cheese goes in and when it's allowed to sit for a few minutes, this will thicken even more. Would you believe it? You know, so as you can see, it takes, I've got a trail when I scoop my spoon through. It leaves a trail behind itself. That's generally where I kind of like it. It's the ballpark I like it to be in. And then I'll do either cheeses or whatever on this, and you know, have it with either chicken or, you know, all sorts of different things. But tonight it's a lasagna, so there's cheese that's going in. So I've turned the heat off. You can't see the heat. I did move it out of the way to sort of indicate that, but was too quick when I put the pan back. Apologise. I'm going in with the cheese. Oh yes, look at that cheese. I know it's already grated cheese, but look at that. It's going in there while it's still warm. There's no heat at the bottom of this pan. Okay, no heat at the bottom of this pan. It's literally just its residual heat that I'm incorporating this cheese in on now. Okay. Look at that. Look at it start to build up into it. Gorgeous, cheesy, sticky, creamy sauce. Oh yeah. Some people put Dijon mustards in it at this point, but I haven't got any, so I won't be putting any mustard in it. Do you look at the way that that cheese has literally just built that sauce together? Look at that. Oh yes. Look at that. I could make this even more cheesier if I wanted to right now. I could actually put more cheese in. I think I'm going to do, because I am a big cheese lover. I like cheese. I do like cheese. Oh, they've removed the self-sealing thing. Oh. They didn't cheat the price up. There we go, a little bit more cheese in there. We'll incorporate that. Oh yes, look at that for a cheese sauce over the top of a lasagna. From scratch, baby. Oh yes. Try and get it on the off the camera, not on the camera. See how thick that is? Gorgeous, and that is just cheese. Yeah. All you cheese lovers. Oh yes, and then I'm going to sprinkle parmesan and some more cheddar over the top as well before I put it in the oven. How is that for deliciousness? Oh yeah. Okay, yes, I know this is not necessarily a quick dish. It requires a little extra effort. I'm going to turn the heat up or whatever on my sauce at the moment. I want the brandy sort of vape off these sauces. I want to try and get it a little thicker. I thought it would be a bit thicker by now on low heat, but you know, no, it's not. So I'm going to get that thickened off a little bit. And then I'm going to get a baking dish. What size baking dish? I think I'm going to have to go for the big one, I think. I still got bits of, not bits of whatever, it's staining. Dishwashers are not very good for everything. Might be good for being lazy on certain things. So, just clean the edges on this. Dish. This one's too big. I'm just going to use a smaller one. Obviously this is the argument of which size to use, as always. I'm thinking I might be able to get it in the smaller baking tray. I got the big one, look. I'm thinking the smaller one. Wondering if it'll all go into that. It might be a bit too much for it to go into that. Maybe we'll try it and I can always transfer it later. Let's give it a go. It's all a form of experimentation, some of this, you know. Right, thicken off my sauce here. I think that'll be fine, actually. I think that'll be fine. So I'm going to get my sauce in onto the base of my it might fit. Actually, I think we're lucky. I think that's going to work. I do think that's going to work. Let's say you never know really until you spreaded it out on the bottom. You never actually know whether it's going to fit or not. So, right, let's get some lasagna sheets. Look at that. Just literally millimetres out. And this is still for frick's sake, seriously. Right, always wet them. You know when you've got a piece of lasagna that goes over, make sure it's already wetted with the sauce. You know, because if you don't, it doesn't cook. I'm going to have to chop the tip off this. A good dose of that sauce there where it overlaps. There we are. Right. In on top with this lovely, thick, rich, gloopy, delicious cheese sauce. Letting Mother Nature do the work tonight. No need to do any other seasonings. It's all there. Delicious, creamy. Oh, cheese lovers, here you come. Look at that, beautiful. Oh yeah. Beautiful cheese sauce that is. Oh my days, that's a good cheese sauce. Oh yeah. Did a good job of that cheese sauce. Right. Now I'm going to put some more cheese. There's a sprinkle over the top. Yes. And I'm going to give it a real punch of extra flavour with some pre-grated, well, I grated it. It's actually Parmesan, but I grated it. I grate it and then put it in the freezer and it keeps a lot longer. So, grate that Parmesan, pour it over the top, like that. Gives that cheese that lovely Parmesan tangy flavour. Delicious, delicious, delicious. Look at that. Oh yes. Look at that. Our lasagna pie ready for the oven. Let me get my oven open, stick it in. Oh, that's it. Now it bakes. Whew. Nearly an hour's of work there, but I tell you what, lasagna is definitely worth it. Beautiful, beautiful. You could speed it up if you had help. You know, one does the cheese sauce, the other does the, bolognese, but that's what it is. Anyway, cheers, my lovely people. I won't let you sit there and watch the timer go down on the cooker while it's baking in the oven. Take it easy. I'll catch you later. And that's how you do it. Full body wine now. Brilliant.